Savannah Hale was the picture-perfect bride, glowing on the night she was meant to begin her forever with Brayden Cross. But by morning, she was dead, her body discovered alone in the honeymoon suite, still in her wedding gown. As whispers of betrayal, secrets, and a hidden affair emerged, one name kept surfacing: Mila Jensen, the loyal maid of honor who vanished without a trace. When her body was lowered into the ground, the real story was just beginning, because someone else knew the truth, and someone was willing to kill to keep it buried. The wedding of Savannah Hale and Brayden Cross was the kind of event people dreamed about. Set against the backdrop of a Malibu cliffside estate, with the Pacific Ocean stretching endlessly beyond the altar, it was designed to be unforgettable. Every detail was perfect. White roses lined the aisle, fairy lights twinkled through olive trees, and a string quartet played a soft version of Can't Help Falling in Love as Savannah walked down the aisle in a custom-designed silk gown. She looked radiant, glowing, the picture of joy. Guests whispered that she looked like royalty. Cameras captured every angle, and within hours, clips from the wedding began trending online. It was the type of wedding people saved on Pinterest boards, the kind influencers posted about for months. But less than 12 hours later, the dream would shatter into a nightmare. At 6:43 a.m. the following morning, a staff member knocked on the honeymoon suite door. No one answered. Room service had been scheduled, but the couple hadn't responded. An hour passed, still no sign. Eventually, hotel management used a spare key to enter the room. What they found stopped them cold. Savannah Hale was lying motionless on the bed. The wedding dress, now wrinkled and dirt-stained, was draped over a chair, slashed across the waist. Her makeup was smudged, and her lips had turned an unnatural shade of blue. At first glance, she appeared to be peacefully asleep, but a closer look revealed the truth. She was cold, lifeless, gone. The scene didn't look like a struggle had taken place. Nothing was broken. No blood, no overturned furniture. The sheets were still tucked neatly around her lower body, but her neck bore a faint discoloration, almost like a shadow. Not quite bruises, but not natural either. It was the kind of detail that sent chills down the spine of even the most seasoned responders. Even more unsettling, Brayden Cross was nowhere to be found. Authorities were alerted immediately. The estate was locked down, and the guest list became a suspect list. Rumors spread fast. Had someone crashed the wedding? Did Savannah have a medical condition no one knew about? Or had something more sinister happened during the night? As investigators began combing through the room, they noticed something odd. Savannah's phone wasn't there. Her purse had been emptied, its contents scattered across the vanity. A single earring sat on the floor, as if it had been yanked out. Her engagement ring, however, was still on her hand. Nothing else appeared to be stolen. Jewelry boxes remained untouched. Cash and credit cards were still in her wallet. It didn't look like a robbery. But then came a more puzzling clue. The security system for that wing of the estate had gone offline between 1:53 and 3:12 a.m. A network error, the system log read. No video footage, no sound, just a blacked-out window of time. An entire hour and 19 minutes missing. And in that window, something had happened to Savannah Hale. News of her death spread like wildfire. The internet, which had just hours before been flooded with hashtags about the wedding, now filled with speculation. Conspiracy theories ran wild. Some said it was a stalker. Others blamed Brayden, wondering why the groom had vanished. By midday, Brayden Cross finally returned, but not to the estate. He walked into a police station alone, looking disheveled, with scratches on his arm and no clear explanation for where he had been. He claimed he had gone for a drive to clear his head after an argument. His voice was low, his eyes were bloodshot. But was it grief or guilt? As detectives gathered more evidence, one thing became clear. This wasn't just a tragedy. It was the beginning of something much darker. The perfect wedding was a perfect cover. And what had happened behind the closed doors of that honeymoon suite was not an accident. Something was hidden in the silence of the night, and whatever it was, it had left a bride dead before the morning light. This was no ordinary case. This was murder. As investigators dug deeper into Savannah Hale's shocking death, the beautiful image of a flawless marriage began to unravel, thread by thread. At first glance, Savannah and Brayden were the epitome of a dream couple. Her an admired social media influencer with millions of followers, him a wealthy investor with charm, sophistication, and a carefully constructed public image. But behind the perfect smiles and edited snapshots was a far more complex and disturbing reality. Savannah's social media accounts painted the picture of a fairy tale romance, brunch dates, sunset getaways, surprise gifts, and loving captions that praised Brayden as her rock and soulmate. Yet when detectives were granted access to her private messages and cloud backup, the mask began to slip. Hidden in her archived folders were drafts of unsent posts, ones that told a very different story. Notes about feeling isolated, descriptions of arguments, and cryptic references to walking on eggshells revealed a side of Brayden no one had seen. In one journal entry, dated just 6 weeks before the wedding, Savannah wrote, "Sometimes I feel like I'm marrying a stranger in disguise." The first major break came when forensics analysts retrieved deleted voice memos from Savannah's cloud. One, recorded 3 days before the wedding, was especially haunting. Her voice trembled as she whispered into her phone, "He scares me when he's angry. I know he loves me, but I don't feel safe anymore. I need to talk to someone. I need a way out." She never sent it. Investigators turned their attention to Brayden's background. On paper, he was clean. No criminal record, successful career, philanthropic donations. Off the record, whispers of past volatility emerged. 2 former partners had once filed for restraining orders, citing manipulation and emotional abuse. One woman, now living under a new name, had documented her ordeal in a private blog. She described Brayden as controlling to the point of suffocation, accusing him of tracking her phone, isolating her from friends, and becoming physically aggressive during fights. Although neither case ever led to charges, they painted a chilling pattern of behavior. Then, the most damning piece of evidence surfaced: a life insurance policy. Savannah, at just 28, had never discussed life insurance publicly. But records showed that a policy worth $500,000 had been quietly signed just 3 weeks before the wedding. The beneficiary? Brayden Cross. Investigators quickly traced the agent who filed the paperwork. She remembered the meeting clearly. Savannah looked hesitant, unsure, even distracted. Brayden did all the talking. The agent described his behavior as forceful, rushed. Savannah didn't ask a single question about the policy's terms. Why would a young, healthy bride suddenly take out such a significant policy? And why so close to the wedding? The estate's staff began coming forward with subtle but unsettling stories. One caterer recalled hearing raised voices during the rehearsal dinner, a sharp contrast to the public laughter. A florist said Brayden had called her the morning of the wedding to demand she change Savannah's bouquet, claiming he didn't like roses. Odd requests, perhaps, but in retrospect, they hinted at someone deeply controlling, someone who needed every detail to fit his expectations. Even more disturbing was a set of texts found on Brayden's phone. Deleted but recoverable, they were sent to an unknown number just hours after Savannah was pronounced dead. One message read simply, "It's done. We'll talk soon." The recipient was untraceable. Burner phone, no registration. But the timing was impossible to ignore. Pieces of the puzzle began fitting together, but the picture wasn't complete. Brayden had motive, he had opportunity, but nothing directly tied him to the moment Savannah died. And until the truth of what happened between midnight and morning came to light, detectives were left chasing shadows. Somewhere between the glamour of a wedding and the silence of a grave was the answer. And they were just beginning to uncover how deep the deception truly ran. As detectives peeled back the layers of Savannah's final days, one name kept surfacing in the investigation: Mila Jensen. She was more than just the maid of honor. She was Savannah's best friend since childhood. The two were inseparable for years, their bond forged through high school heartbreaks, college adventures, and shared dreams of building a future together in the spotlight. To the outside world, Mila was loyal, soft-spoken, and fiercely protective of Savannah. But as the investigation dug deeper, the perfect image of the devoted best friend began to fracture. In every photo from the wedding weekend, Mila was smiling, yet behind her eyes there was something else. Detectives initially saw her as a supporting witness, someone who might offer insight into the dynamics between Savannah and Brayden. But during the first round of questioning, Mila's behavior raised red flags. She spoke in rehearsed phrases, avoided eye contact, and often contradicted herself when asked about the events of the wedding night. She claimed she had gone to bed early, that she didn't hear anything unusual, and that Savannah seemed happy and calm when they last spoke. But staff members told a different story. According to a housekeeper, Mila was seen leaving the bridal suite around midnight, long after she claimed to have gone to her room. She looked shaken, her dress slightly torn at the hem, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. When asked about this, Mila said she had gone back to check on Savannah's makeup kit and dismissed the incident as nothing. But then Mila vanished. 2 days after Savannah's death, before her second scheduled interview with investigators, Mila failed to show up. Her phone went offline, her car was gone. Security cameras at a local gas station captured her vehicle heading out of town at 4:17 IEMM. She had packed a single duffel bag, left her apartment unlocked, and withdrew nearly $10,000, 0 cents, in cash the night before. Her disappearance flipped the investigation on its head. Detectives turned to digital forensics and combed through Savannah's cloud storage, which contained backups of texts, photos, and videos. Hidden deep in an encrypted folder was a private video recorded just 2 nights before the wedding. In the dim glow of her vanity mirror, Savannah appeared teary-eyed and nervous. She whispered into her phone, "I don't know how to say this, but I caught Brayden and Mila together. I walked in on them in the guest house. He swore it meant nothing, but I saw the way she looked at him. I think something's been going on for a while." The recording ended with Savannah forcing a smile, saying, "Maybe I'm overthinking, maybe I'm just tired." But she wasn't wrong. Data analysts retrieved deleted messages between Brayden and a contact labeled simply M. The conversations were cryptic, but the tone was unmistakably intimate. One message read, "After next weekend, things will be different. Just hold on." Another, "She'll never see it coming." The discovery shattered any illusion of Mila's innocence. It also suggested a sinister plot, one possibly involving both Mila and Brayden. What had started as a suspected crime of passion was beginning to look like premeditated betrayal. Friends of Savannah were stunned. No one had suspected Mila. She had stood beside Savannah in her final hours, fixing her veil, holding her bouquet, helping her into the wedding gown she'd never get to wear again. Was it guilt that made Mila run? Or fear of being exposed? The public quickly turned against her. News outlets dubbed her the vanishing bridesmaid. Online sleuths traced every digital footprint, but Mila had covered her tracks well. With each passing hour, the urgency to find her grew. She was no longer just a witness. She was the key to unlocking the truth of what happened on the night Savannah died. And somewhere, she was watching the storm unfold, knowing the clock was ticking before the truth caught up to her. As the search for Mila Jensen intensified, a new wave of evidence began to rise from the ashes of the wedding night. With the honeymoon suite still sealed off and forensic teams combing every inch of the estate, investigators were desperate for a timeline, something to anchor the chaos of that night. The breakthrough came not from inside the room but just outside it. on the surveillance system that had mysteriously glitched. Forensic techs managed to recover fragments of the deleted footage from before the cameras went dark. At precisely 2:14 a.m., Brayden Cross was seen exiting the suite alone. He wasn't dressed for sleep. He wore dark jeans, a plain shirt, and was holding what appeared to be a black duffel bag. His pace was brisk, almost too calm for a man whose bride was supposedly asleep in the next room. The footage didn't show where he went. It cut out just moments later, but the timestamp was critical. Brayden's official statement claimed he'd been asleep during that time. This directly contradicted it. Exactly 47 minutes later, when the system came back online at 3:01 a.m., Brayden reappeared in the frame. Same clothes, same duffel bag, but this time the bag looked thinner, like something had been removed. He entered the suite again unnoticed. The timing wasn't the only clue. The following morning, before the property was locked down, a groundskeeper made a quiet discovery. Near the far edge of the estate's property line, buried under soft, freshly turned soil behind a line of hedges, he found a smartphone. Detectives rushed to secure it, and though water-damaged, the phone was positively identified as Savannah's. His location was nearly a mile from the suite, far too far for her to have discarded it herself that night. When forensic teams recovered the data, the final recording sent chills through the entire investigation. It was a voice memo Savannah had started, likely in fear, her words quick and breathless. "I think he knows. I don't know who to trust anymore. I saw the texts. I saw them together. If anything happens to me..." The message ended there abruptly. The file had been manually deleted just hours later, likely after the phone had already been buried. With this discovery, Brayden was brought in for questioning again, but this time he was treated as a suspect. His once polished composure was gone. He looked pale, anxious, his carefully trimmed beard now patchy and unkempt. Detectives pressed him on the inconsistencies, the footage, the duffel bag, the buried phone. But Brayden clung to his narrative. He claimed he went for a drive, needed to clear his head after a small argument with Savannah. When asked about the footage, he paused before offering a vague explanation about wanting air and taking a walk. He had no answer for the missing phone. Then came the biggest twist yet. A call came into the station from a motel 3 states away. A clerk recognized Mila Jensen's photo from a news broadcast. She had checked in under a false name 2 days earlier, using cash. Detectives arrived hours later and arrested her without resistance. She looked exhausted, thinner, and didn't speak a word as she was taken into custody. With Mila finally in their grasp, investigators felt they were inches from the truth. But what Mila revealed in her initial interrogation sent shockwaves through the entire case. She claimed Brayden wasn't the killer. She was. And the moment she said it, everything changed. The duffel bag, the buried phone, the cryptic messages, all of it took on new meaning. Brayden might not have committed the murder himself, but he hadn't tried to stop it either. He knew. He helped. Now the truth was spiraling into darker territory than anyone imagined. What was supposed to be a night of love and celebration had transformed into something calculated, cold, and deadly. The confession rocked the entire investigation, but it didn't bring clarity. Instead, Mila Jensen's admission casts more shadows than light. She told investigators that she acted alone, that she was solely responsible for Savannah's death, and that Brayden had no involvement. But no one believed her. Not entirely. Mila described the night in vague fragments, avoiding specifics. She claimed she had gone to the honeymoon suite after everyone had gone to bed. Savannah, she said, was crying. The two had a private conversation. One Mila insisted was about the past, about hurts that couldn't be undone. Then, according to her version of events, something snapped. Mila claimed it wasn't planned, that the moment took her over like a wave, that jealousy and betrayal had poisoned her heart. But when asked how she ended Savannah's life, she hesitated. Her story didn't match the forensics. The markings on Savannah's neck, the placement of her body, and the calmness of the crime scene all contradicted the image of an emotional outburst or spontaneous act of violence. Investigators suspected what Mila was doing, protecting someone. Most likely Brayden. For weeks they had danced around the theory that the murder was premeditated. The life insurance policy, the deleted messages, the duffel bag, and the missing surveillance footage all hinted at planning. But now Mila had placed herself in the center, hoping to erase the suspicion that had built around Brayden. Still, the evidence was too loud to ignore. Her silence couldn't erase it. Digital forensics traced back Mila's deleted files. They found a shared encrypted folder between her and Brayden. Inside were screenshots of Savannah's messages, including the voice memo she had recorded before her death. One chilling image showed Savannah's wedding dress draped on a chair, the exact same position it was found in the crime scene. The timestamp proved it had been taken hours before the staff discovered her body. Mila's phone had been used to capture it. Even more damning was a draft email Mila had written but never sent. It read, "After this, we can finally be together. No more hiding, no more pretending. I know what we're doing is wrong, but I also know what I want." The recipient's email address had been deleted, but recovery software showed the first few letters. B. Cross. Detectives confronted Brayden with the evidence. His response was mechanical. He didn't deny the affair. He admitted to having a complicated relationship with Mila, but he refused to admit any knowledge of the murder. According to him, he left the suite that night to take a call, then stayed in the car because he was overwhelmed. When asked why he didn't call for help after discovering Savannah the next morning, Brayden's only answer was that he panicked. His legal team advised him to say nothing more, but public opinion had already decided. Savannah's family, once silent in their grief, stepped forward with statements of betrayal. They had welcomed both Brayden and Mila into their lives. They had trusted them. Now all they wanted was justice. Prosecutors moved forward with charges against both. Mila was charged with first-degree murder. Brayden was charged with conspiracy and obstruction based on the mountain of digital evidence linking him to the cover-up. The trial was set to become a media frenzy. Streamed, debated, dissected. Everyone wanted to understand how a wedding filled with light could hide so much darkness. In the end, Mila took a plea deal in exchange for full disclosure. She detailed the plan, how she and Brayden had agreed to manipulate Savannah's mental state, make her feel unstable, and then quietly remove her from the picture. Mila claimed Brayden feared a scandal more than anything, and Savannah had discovered things about his business that could ruin him. She didn't go into detail, only that it was bigger than anyone knew. Mila received 25 years. Brayden, though convicted, used his influence and legal power to receive a lesser sentence. 15 years. Eligible for parole in 10. The story stunned the world, not just because it was tragic, but because it was calculated, hidden in plain sight. A wedding night turned crime scene. A best friend turned killer. A groom turned conspirator. And a bride silenced forever on what should have been the happiest night of her life.